In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can implement row-level security within any model so that as each user logs into Pyramid, the content can automatically be filtered. To start with, I've got a user here, and you'll see if I look at this, I'm logged in as user 1, and they've got a couple pieces of content that they can check out. So in this case, if I look at this country summary, you can see I can view all 6 countries within that report, no problem. And if I look at a dashboard, you'll see for that dashboard, I've got a drop down. I can pick any of those 6 countries and see all the content change as you would expect. Okay, if I go to a second browser, we'll see for this browser, I'm logged in as user 2, and I can look at those same 2 pieces of content. Right now I'm looking at all countries, and for the dashboard, I'm looking at all countries in the dropdown. Okay, so now we've seen that currently this model has no security, row-level security applied, so both users are seeing the exact same content. So what we're going to do now is we're going to implement row-level security. So I've got the model here that those reports and dashboards were built off of, and I'm going to add some data to the model that will allow me to secure my content. This data happens to actually be an Excel file, but just know that you can use any data source type. It could be a table in a relational database. It could be something coming from a web service. Any number of sources can be used for applying the security. In this example here, it's just a simple Excel file. What you'll see is user 1 is going to be locked into Australia. User 2 will actually be able to see Canada and the United States. And so this is what we're going to use for our security. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag over an Excel data source, and then I'm going to grab that security file, and we'll just drop it there on the web page, add that as a node. And what we'll see is there's the information that we were getting. Okay, now all I'm going to do is just go ahead and add that connection into my model. You will notice in this particular case, I'm using an in-memory data model. This feature, however, works with any of the appropriate targets. So I can apply this to a live query model, whether that live query model is coming from SQL or Snowflake, SAP HANA, Amazon Redshift. Any of these data sources, I can apply this security approach on any of them. Okay, what I'm going to do is over in my data model section, you'll see there's my security table. Because I'm securing on country, I'm going to connect it to my country table. So I'm just going to draw my connection there. You'll notice the arrow is going towards the table that I'm going to ultimately leverage. That is important when you're setting these up. You don't want if you're using a separate table for your security, you don't want the arrow pointing to your security table. You want it pointing away. And then because I'm using this particular table for no other purpose other than to secure the data, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click on that table and say mark this as a security table. What that essentially does is it hides the table from the end user. So when an end user is browsing the model, they're never going to see this table. Now, if I happen to have just a user field in one of my other tables. So let's say, as an example, my sales org table that has all my salespeople. Maybe I had a username column as part of that table. Well, instead of going that route, what you'll see is I can mark a column as a security column. There's no magic to whether you mark a table or mark a column. Technically, you don't have to do that for any of this. But what the mark as a security table does is it just hides it from the user so that they're not seeing the information. Okay, so now that I've got that set, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and save my changes, and we're going to redeploy. So what it's going to do is it's going to read that Excel file in, it's going to reprocess my model, and now you'll see I'm not seeing that security table here in my list. But what I can do once I've got that added to my model is I can go to the admin console, go to that specific model, and there is a little trick that you have to make sure you walk through in order to get this to work. First of all, you want to verify for that model at the database level. I want to go in and look at database security, and I want to make sure that my appropriate role that I'm trying to secure has read writes to that database. I then want to go into the underlying model and go to the model security and verify at the model security level that that user has rights. And then when I go down to the member security, what you'll see is whatever roles you've set at the database and the model level, you'll see those roles listed here. Okay, and then you'll notice in the list of hierarchies, notice there's that security table. So even though from the end user they never see it, from the security side, I actually have access to these. And so all I'm going to do here is I'm going to secure the data based on this field. Whoever is logging in, we're going to secure the data. Now you will see that there is this basic option where I can just check the boxes to say what values a user has. But in this case, we're actually just going to use a script. And this script happens to be a piece of PQL code. And the script is, I'm going to run this string to member function, and this is the column that I'm looking at, which is the user column of the security table, and I'm going to compare it with a function called username, which is the logged in user. Now, in my case, I'm using database security. If this were Windows authentication, the username would return both the domain and the user name. So it would be my domain / my user. Okay, so you would need to take that into account when you build these, that if you're using Windows authentication, you want to include the domain names. So it's the fully qualified username when you're setting up that security table. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and set that. We'll apply it. And you'll see as soon as I apply it, I get this little lock icon that's indicating I am securing the data based on this particular column. All right, so let's see this in action. If I go back over here, this is user 1, and you may remember from the spreadsheet, user 1 can only see Australia. So we'll start with a simple report, and if we go look at that report, we can see that that user can only see Australia. Okay, if I go to the dashboard, and that dashboard has a filter in this case like this, you'll see in my drop down, I only see Australia in the list. Okay, so for user 1, security works perfect. Let's go look at user 2. And so this is user 2 here. If we go look at the country summary, you'll see they're only able to see Canada and the United States. And if I go look at a dashboard, you'll see that I have 2 items now in the drop down. So I can choose United States or Canada in this case. So that gives you a quick view at how to leverage the row level security or member level security within the platform. Very simple. You can just make it purely based on a table, or in my case, a spreadsheet, hook it up, and be good to go. And like I said, it works on pyramid in-memory models. It also works on direct query models where you're pulling it straight from SQL. Hopefully you can get that working on your side. If for some reason you run into any problems, please contact our support organization and they will help you get it figured out. So with that, we'll go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you.